Thank you. Thank you very much. Minister, I realise that you won't have much of the details I require in my response here this evening regarding Irish Water, but Irish Water are the competent authority in relation to the issue I'm about to raise. But I still feel that this issue needs to get a hearing tonight, and I think the issues raised here with Carrigrennan wastewater treatment plant and previously issues raised regarding Belgooley in West Cork, which were raised by my colleague Christopher O'Sullivan recently, are examples of a systemic failing in Irish Water's ability to manage wastewater facilities in this country. Just by the way of background, Minister, Irish Water have subcontracted the operation of the Carrigrennan wastewater treatment plant to a company called Northumbrian Water Projects, who are responsible for the running of the facility. The difficulties I, as a public representative, and the people who work and live adjacent to the plant have is the recurring issues with odour and noise, but in particular foul odours. At the time the €40 million plant was built back in 2005, people were promised that they wouldn't even notice that the plant was there and that it would not be an inconvenience to people. Nothing could be further from the truth. Since 2014, when I was elected a county councillor, I have raised consistently the issues at the plant and regularly logged numerous complaints of my own, as advised by both the EPA and the local authority at the time. I've done that myself, and a number of locals have also. However, after I requested the EPA do an on-site odour survey last week, the EPA detected issues around and on the site. They called into the plant where they also detected issues. On foot of this incident, I requested Irish Water that they supply me, as they are mandated to do in their licence, with the number and nature of the complaints that they received annually. 3 weeks later, I am yet to receive that response from Irish Water, but the EPA thankfully have given me their records, and their records, which are supplied to them by Irish Water, indicated that there were no odour complaints in 2018, 2019 or 2020, and only one noise complaint in 2019. As I mentioned at the outset, I myself have submitted a number of complaints over the last few years, and these are obviously not being recorded by Irish Water, as they are statutorily mandated to do. Irish Water in this regard are conveying a complete disregard for myself and the people that are affected by it. And I suppose the larger issue that I have is, if Irish Water are not logging complaints correctly as they are meant to do in the case of Carrigrennan here in Little Island, and the same has been proven correct in the case of Belgooley in West Cork, the question I would have is, how many other areas across the country is this being flouted? It's very disheartening, and if you actually look at the Carrigrennan wastewater treatment plant, it is one of the largest ones in the country, and all the development that's proposed for the north side of Cork City in the next few years, all the housing, all the industry and commercial activity, is all contingent on the smooth running of that facility. That facility has been operating in breach of its nitrate emissions since 2015 under its EPA licence, and yet nothing is done. So the question I have, Minister, is Irish Water are showing a complete disregard for both public representatives and local people. They're not handling complaints about noise and odour correctly as they are mandated to do. I suppose the issue I have here is, are Irish Water the competent authority to be governing these wastewater treatment plants? They're showing that they're incapable of doing so, and should another competent authority maybe step in and be considered to do that, in light of what we're receiving here from Irish Water? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Antara.
I'd like to thank Deputy O'Sullivan for raising this matter and the issue of Benbooley, and it is certainly a concern locally, but a concern to us all nationally as well. The Deputy will appreciate that the operation of Carrigrennan wastewater treatment plant is a matter for Irish Water. In turn, the Environmental Protection Agency, as the environmental regulator, is responsible for setting quality standards and enforcing compliance with EU directives and national regulations for wastewater discharges. Since the 1st of January 2014, Irish Water has statutory responsibility for all aspects of water services planning, delivery and operation at national, regional and local level. Irish Water's primary function is to provide clean, safe drinking water to customers and to collect, treat and return wastewater safely back into the environment, including the wastewater treatment plant that you raise here with me today. However, from inquiries with my department, which has made with Irish Water, I do understand that complaints about odour at Carrigrennan wastewater treatment plant are being investigated. I understand that Irish Water has committed to putting in place some additional works, including optimisation of the odour management system to address the issue. Where there have been complaints about noise in the past, I understand that there have been no complaints regarding noise in recent months. I also understand separately that Carrigrennan wastewater treatment plant is not currently compliant with the EPA discharge authorisation in relation to total amount of nitrogen emitted to the environment. This is unconnected to any noise or odour issue. Irish Water has informed my department that since this plant was commissioned in 2004, the area to which it discharges, Lough Mahon, has been designated as a sensitive area under the Urban Wastewater Treatment Amendment Regulations 2004. This means that the wastewater discharge authorisation has increased requirements for nitrogen removal, which was not provided for at the plant when originally constructed. Irish Water plans to carry out a modelling exercise on receiving water in relation to this issue and will maintain contact with the EPA in this regard to ensure that the plant operates in accordance with the appropriate authorisation. As the Deputy will appreciate, the investment needs across our entire water system are considerable and will take a number of investment cycles to fully resolve. This will require significant and sustained investment from the state. The programme for government commits to delivering an €8.5 billion investment identified under the National Development Plan in public water services. This will ensure the continued operation, repair and upgrading of Ireland's wastewater and wastewater infrastructure to support social and economic development across the state and to ensure compliance with EU directives. In more general terms, the Government's River Basin Management Plans 2018 to 21 outlines what Ireland is doing to protect and improve our waters, and the next River Basin Management Plan is currently being prepared by my department and will be a critical plan period.
O'Sullivan.
Thanks, Minister.
Minutes.
I suppose, look, I appreciate the response, but again it raises a number of questions. Like even the very fact that your answer has acknowledged that it's in breach of its nitrate emissions in terms of its licence since 2015, that in itself, although it's not connected directly to odour or noise, that recognition in itself, surely that's not acceptable. 5 years on, they're still in breach of their licence and nothing has been done to remedy it, or very little in my mind. The second thing there, capital investment, yes, is required for it, but Irish Water haven't really outlined. They haven't identified to us what the specific issues are or how they're going to address it, or most importantly, give us a timeline. I think that's the very least. If a plant of this nature, as important as it is to the development of the Cork Harbour region, if it's in breach of its licence, we should be given a definitive timeline and detail about exactly how it's going to get upgraded. As I said, there's, I'd say, about 6,000 units penciled, housing units penciled for that area of Cork in the next few years, not to mention all the industry and commercial activity that's going to feed into this wastewater treatment plant. I just think it's unacceptable that Irish Water, as I said previously, are continuing to ignore public representatives and continuing to ignore, I suppose, its responsibilities to people like the EPA in reporting these incidents. So look, while I appreciate the response, it gives me very little comfort in the fact that the problem is going to be resolved anytime soon. And I do think that it reflects very poorly on Irish Water. They think it's acceptable, both, as I said, in Cork North Central, in the case of the Carrigrennan plant, and as mentioned earlier in Belgooley in West Cork. I'm just afraid that that's indicative of their logging of complaints right across the country, and I'd be interested to see if other public representatives maybe in the coming months would probably do similar research in terms of wastewater treatment plants that are being managed by Irish Water in their areas, because I think this is, there's a long story here. I would imagine. I don't think Irish Water are covering themselves in any glory. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Antara.
And again, just to thank the Deputy for his comments. It is agreed that Irish Water will need years and significant investment to address deficiencies in our water and wastewater infrastructure. Irish Water's primary function is to provide clean, safe drinking water to customers and to treat wastewater and return it safely to the environment. In providing these critical services, Irish Water play a role in enabling social and economic growth, protecting the environment as well as the health and safety of the public. Irish Water, as a single national utility, is taking a strategic and nationwide approach to asset planning, investment and meeting customer requirements. Our priority objective is to bring and maintain public water and wastewater services to acceptable international benchmarks, verified by independent monitoring and reporting. And Irish Water has been successful in achieving a 44% reduction in the amount of untreated and inadequately treated wastewater being discharged into our rivers, lakes and the sea since 2014. However, I do note the Deputy's comments, and I certainly will follow up within our department on the recording and logging of complaints. I wish to do that. I also will seek from Irish Water a specific timeline and further detail in relation to this specific item. I think it's important that we get clarification on this and more specifics to try and move this issue along, because, as the Deputy has quite rightly outlined, it has been recurring and dragging on for far too long.
Thank you, Minister.